This is the final word, T20 World Cup Daily, Day 5, the last day in Geelong. Sri Lanka playing the Netherlands, Namibia playing the UAE for a place in the next stage of the competition. We had a couple of cracking games. We had an absolutely barnstorming finish. We'll come to that in just a second. Jeff Lemon and Adam Collins, because it's our last night in Geelong.
I know, I'm gutted too. I've loved being down here. It's been 3 days of quite outstanding cricket. I mean, barely a bad game. There's probably one bad game out of the 6. And then you overlay it with getting to be in Southwest Victoria, which I love, and being in this new stadium. I mean, when we were growing up, people gave Kardinia Park a bit of shit.
Yep.
It was actually kind of expected to give old Sleepy Hollow and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
this is an outstanding modern stadium that they've now built down here, and it's not yet finished. So it'll 40,000 capacity by the time it's done. Com Games is going to be great. I look forward to spending so much more time down here in the years to come.
We've been making these few shows over the last few days with Visit Melbourne, visitmelbourne.com, where you can plan your Melbourne moment.
Do it.
They were talking to us about Melbourne being one of the great food cities in the world, and I agree, it is. Some people might look at me and say, you're a hipster, look at the glasses, look at the hair, look at the check shirt, and I would say, look,
you and I wearing check shirts.
Check shirts. If it's a crime to enjoy a delicious cooked breakfast at 2 p.m. that somebody else has made, then yes, I'm guilty. I am a hipster. But coming down here to Geelong, what I found this week was a place called Toasty, which is a cafe that only makes toasted sandwiches and milkshakes. Oh. It's like the ideal place for people like you and me. And on the wall, just to finish this off, is a big neon script that says, Marge, I'd like to be alone with the sandwich for a moment.
I knew when I used to drive, when I lived in Warrnambool as a kid, we used to go past the North Korea Roadhouse, I think it was.
Yeah.
And the North Korea Macca's. But that being, the...
North Korea Roadhouse, starring Patrick Swayze.
That's all we knew. But now, next time I return, bearing in mind I've been sort of staying half an hour, 45 minutes away, but I'll go to, what do you call it?
Toasty.
Toasty. Nice.
It's the place to be. Visit Melbourne. And by virtue of that, visit Geelong. It's an hour on the train. It's very close, very easy. Right. Cricket. A couple of games happened today. Maybe we'll do the second one first because that informed everything else that came after.
Goodness me. Actually, you know what? You do your 30-second summary. I'll have a rant.
Okay. All right. Namibia played the UAE. It was Trumpelman and Visa bowling really well together off the top. Remember those two names in partnership. And then the UAE kicked into gear. An even 50 from Mohammad Wasim, who got going really nicely. And then CP Rizwan came in with Basil Hamid right towards the end.
Thanks, Basil.
Thanks, Basil. Couple of nice beyond cameos for them. They got up to 148 for 3. Great total. And then Namibia were absolutely junked. They were 46 for 5 after 8 overs. They were sunk. And then David Visa and Ruben Trumpelman put on 70 together. Ruben Trumpelman couldn't hit the ball at first. They put on 70. They need 14 off the last over. Visa's caught on the boundary going for the 6 to try to get them home, and they ended up losing by 7 runs. They're out, Namibia. They would have gone through if they'd won. Now the Netherlands go through instead. Yeah,
I mean, it was a great day to be here. A fabulous second game with so much on the line. Remembering that for Namibia, that means they lose automatic qualification for the next World Cup. The Netherlands now get that. More on that later. Okay. But, I mean, the UAE don't. But let's remember where the UAE were in 2018. They were decimated. Truthfully, through a lot of their own bullshit. A lot of their players got suspended. CP Rizwan took that team by the scruff of the neck. So enormous credit to them for getting their shit together, for making this competition. They didn't make it last year. They didn't get out of the qualifiers in the previous iteration. It was hosted in the UAE, but it
never won a game in this tournament.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot to this, and you look for green shoots with nations coming through, and then you see them do these ones. And it felt like the UAE was doing that one after the 2015 One-Day World Cup in Australia. So, well, maybe we won't see them on the big stage again. And they've won a game tonight against a formidable opponent in Namibia. And I think that provides us with an opportunity to celebrate associate cricket. Think about the shit these often young men go through to want to do this.
Yeah.
There was 3 professional cricketers in 2019 in Namibia. I mean, now they've got the Lahore Qalandars program that's come through Visa. Where they had 4 players in their academy this year. Who knows what might be possible? I know that the UAE, through Robin Singh, their coach, have been fighting for full member status. Fuck yeah. I want to see a whole bunch of nations get full member status because as much as I love associate cricket, these are countries, if they get given the opportunity and the space to take the next step, they probably will. And the evidence has been at the 3 nights at Kardinia Park.
Yeah, and the division of status is a farce anyway.
Of course
it's completely arbitrary. If 2 teams want to play each other in a 5-day match. Why can't it be a test match?
Yeah, and look, I may not be quite as extreme as you on that. I mean, I think it is worthwhile, sort of having some demarcation, but I think that the number of teams that are permitted to play Test cricket right now, and it's not just Test cricket, it's like being a full member gives you certain financial privileges.
Sure.
It opens up the pie, right? It broadens out the pie in ways that we've spoken about a lot on the podcast for a number of years. So yeah, I hope that this week, just provides a bit of pause for those around that board table. And I know that the ICC isn't the some tower in Dubai. It is a federation of members, and hopefully those members look at this and go, yeah, that was fucking good, because it was really, really special tonight.
Yeah, it was quality stuff throughout. I was really interested by the number of people who were like, oh well, Namibia will obviously romp this in as though they're now a big dog in international cricket. They're still Namibia. They still are a team with flaws, but it looked early like that's how it was going to go. Visa and Trumpelman they bowled 4 overs in the power play and went for 17 runs between them. UAE none for 30 after 6 overs, and you're thinking, well, they're in strife here.
Yeah, there was a bit going on, wasn't there? Because Schultz bowled 4 overs, 1 for 22, the spinner. The interesting part of it, that it was actually Freilich and JJ Smith that went around, who are the sort of the slower ball experts. They're the guys with the variations, the two of the myriad left armers that Namibia have, and they went around at the end against the flow of play. I know you've touched on him already, but Basil Hamid, I was not jokingly saying that they should retire him out after a few balls. I thought, look, in all probability, if you bring in Junaid Sadiq, who hit the biggest 6 of the tournament 2 nights ago, it will probably give you a greater chance of hitting a 6 in the last couple of overs. Forget what I said. He hit 23 not out, 2 massive bombs, and gave them the chance to get up towards 150. And fair fucks to him. And likewise, CP Rizwan, who was very much the junior partner when batting earlier with Mohammad Wasim. He found a way to get his strike rate up to 120, 130, 140 even at one stage. Again, this is like a developmental thing.
And it was transition batting, right? So Fritz Aravind, the keeper, was really struggling. He gets out. It was probably best for the team that he got out because he couldn't get the bowling away.
They shouldn't have opened with him, but that was a mistake.
Mohammad Wasim, he makes his 50 in good time, and then when he gets out, it's the easy handover to the captain, to CP Rizwan. He picks it up and starts going with it, and then Basil starts doing the same thing towards the back end of the innings. They're playing the little flick shots over the shoulder, a couple of big bombs over the leg side for either of them, and suddenly the Namibians were a bit rattled. They were like, this isn't supposed to be happening. We're supposed to be on top of this team, and they're playing really good cricket, and they're putting us under the pump.
Yeah, Basil, he just loves cricket. He got to open the bowling. He bowled 3 overs consecutively from the City end.
Yep.
3 overs.
Would you like to know how many international cricketers called Basil there have been?
I think, isn't it? Oh, no, we know that this is the first in a World Cup, don't we?
Yeah, we know it's first in a World Cup. So Basil D'Oliveira, the most famous Basil, of course. Basil Arthur Firebrace Grieve played 2 tests for England in 1889. Okay. Basil Brown played for the USA in the 60s and 70s. And that's it. There's a couple of Windies players with Basil as a middle name, Elvedon Basil Williams and Ian Basil Alston Allen. That's it.
Oh, really?
As far as Basils go, he's in a select club.
As I've said before on the podcast, we're still looking for a boy's name in the event that our child in January ends up one of them rather than one of the other ones.
Yeah.
Who knows? I might float Basil tomorrow morning.
Basil, it's good in a salad. And it's good in a World Cup. It's done great things in this World Cup. So 148 for 3. And then Namibia don't really get stuck in early. They do the same thing. They're a bit nervous.
They were shitting themselves.
Yeah.
They were so nervous.
Suddenly it was on them. Suddenly it was on them to win the game.
They were no longer the plucky sort of... they were the favourites, right? When have Namibia been the favourites in a game like that? Kind of never.
Even
last year when Visa took down the Netherlands and... I think he took down Ireland as well. Oh, it was Erasmus who took down Ireland. But still, they weren't expected to win those games. They were sort of... It was an extraordinary tale. The whole thing's an extraordinary tale.
Sure.
The fact that they've got to this point. But even though they're out of the comp now and they won't make the Super 12s.
Yeah.
But, rare would it be that their openers would walk out like, fuck, there is so much on the line for us. Usually it's like a lot of upside, limited downside. Different mentality.
And they got nervous. And Junaid Siddiqui gets a wicket early, gets barred, and then in comes Basil, and he picks up a couple. He gets Van Lingen caught at deep mid-wicket. And then Lecoq, before wicket, literally, he's down on one knee and gets hit in the box and gets given out, and it's going on to hit middle and leg stump on review. Well, it was given not out, wasn't it? And then they went upstairs for that one.
Yeah, I thought it was... not Lecoq, but I'll take your word for it.
Okay. Well, it's funnier.
I was only on commentary. Let's say it was Lecoq. I think it might have been Lofty. Doesn't matter.
Well, maybe it was Lofty Eaton.
Yeah, either way, it doesn't matter. The point is, you said 50 odd for 5. They were 70 for 7. I mean, and that's when Zahur Khan bowls 2 of the great in-swinging Yorkers. I mean, the one that knocked over Freilich was the stuff you'd dream of as a quick first ball of his second spell, up roots off stump, Then 3 balls later to Zane Green, the wicketkeeper, via an inside edge, takes out middle stump. And we're thinking this game's going to be over in 10 minutes. This is going to bowl them out. That's when Trumpelman comes in, joins Visa, who's striking at like 100 at that point. He was nowhere near ready to go through the gears.
Trumpelman looked awful. I don't think he hit his first 6 deliveries that he faced. He was just whooshing fresh air shots outside off stump, and you thought, this is going to be over quickly. Then he started knocking a few singles around. Visa was hitting the ball hard, but only getting singles.
Yeah.
And it just kind of dragged on for 3 or 4 boring overs where you're like, come on, finish the game.
Well, I think I said something like, you can let it go. They came together in 9 and over to win, right? And I said, well, you can probably get to 11 because it's Visa. Anything more than 2 a ball, it's not going to work unless you've got 2 batters contributing. And then Trumpelman has the big over, I think off Mayapone possibly, hits a 6.
Yeah, hits a 6 off Mayapone.
And he kind of gets his groove on, and suddenly their 50 partnership, which is up in like 30 odd balls, he's made 20 of them. And you're like, okay, so now Visa is trusting Trumpelman. The dynamic changed very quickly.
And then, talk about trust, how about this? CP Rizwan, the captain, turning to Mohammad
Amazing.
Wasim.
Absolutely amazing stuff.
Let me give you the numbers on this. Before today, Mohammad Wasim had bowled 22 deliveries in all T20 cricket. Not just T20 internationals, all professional or high-level T20 cricket in his career. So, he comes on and bowls. He gets whacked for a 6 by David Visa over mid-wicket. And then a huge top edge goes up. He runs away to try to catch it, caught and bowled, spills it, head in the ground. You're thinking, okay, this really hasn't worked, right? Junaid Siddiqui goes for 16 off the third last over. It gets bashed around. Suddenly they're in it, Namibia.
Who's going to bowl the penultimate over? We're going, well, are they going to bowl? We were saying on commentary, well, maybe they'll have to bowl Wasim in 19 to keep Zahur back for 20. They go the other way. And I felt that was the right call. Chips in. But, I mean, before over 20, there was a consultation with 5 of them there.
Sure.
And my sense was they were going to bowl spin until Mohammad Wasim said, no, mate, I'm bowling it.
I'll do it.
I'm doing it. 5 paces.
So Zahur bowls the second last over and only goes for 6. They need 14 off the last over. Try to explain to people what Mohammad Wasim bowling looked like. He was like the thrift shop Jasprit Bumrah.
I mean, it was the guy who bowls second change in the thirds.
Yeah.
And that's what he ran up 5 sets, but he
didn't
gave
even
it
run
some
up.
shoulder.
He just walked in.
But he gave it some, and then in the last over,
why
he
is the
landed.
keeper standing back? We were wondering as he came in off about 6 paces, and
there was enough pace there.
Then he gave substantial pace off that action,
and he hit the crease line effectively 4 times in the last over. I mean, like, I know Visa got hold of that one down to long. One went to the long boundary. You'll have to remind me who took the catch. It was a bloody good bit of fielding.
But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. This is where we come back around to something.
Right.
I said he'd only bowled 22 balls before. Here's the twist. He'd taken 3 wickets with those 22 balls. He'd taken 2 of them last year against Namibia, 2 for 13, including the wicket of David Visa. It was a matchup. CP Rizwan pulled a matchup out of his fundament and threw it in the last over and said, well, you've got him out before, you can do it again. And Mohammad Wasim duly did, caught it long on.
How many times would the 7th bowler bowl overs 17 and 20 in a T20 international?
Never.
And after having made a wonderful 50 from 41 balls to give them a chance of having a score that was vaguely credible. Got bugger all strike in the power play, had to work really hard between overs, say 7 and 15, to get more strike, to get the board turning over rather. Built that partnership with Rizwan initially. I mean, talk about player of the match. I mean, he was it. Time's over.
And then how about Visa? That incredible performance. He walked off in tears. They could have qualified had he got a few more metres on that hit. It's probably
his last game for Namibia, I'd say. I mean, he's 37 now. Don't get me wrong, he's got loads of high-level cricket to play, but the World Cup 2 years away, is he still there at 39? I mean, I don't know. It might be his last game.
They needed 10 off 2 balls when he was out, after he was out and couldn't get there. And so, I mean, you feel for everybody. You want everybody to go through.
That's associate cricket, right? I mean, we feel these links to these countries because we cover them, and we know how difficult it is to sustain it when they've got other jobs and other interests. And it's a special thing when they come together like this, and you overlay it being a World Cup. And I don't want this to be the model going forward, and it's not the model going forward, right? It's going to be the full World Cup in 2024.
20 teams.
It'll be 20 teams. It'll be very different. It'll feel very different. But just the fact that it's got the bunting and it's called a World Cup, it didn't matter that there was 2,000 people there at the end. It felt like 20,000. Such was the tension. It was a brilliant game of cricket.
And so all of that obviates the significance of the result of the first game, where Netherlands, for a while, thought they were out. So Netherlands played Sri Lanka. Give it to us in 30 seconds.
Gee whiz, hear my voice? You think I can remember that game from 5 hours ago? Let's try. The Dutch batted first. No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
They didn't. Who were they playing again?
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka batted first. They hit 60 runs in their first 10 overs. I remember that.
Yep.
Slow power play. Then they lost 2 wickets in 2 balls. Van Meekeren hit the stumps and blew the front pad off of Dhananjaya. But Kusal Mendes down the other end, cool as he ever was, ever is, made 79, his equal highest score in T20 international cricket.
Good.
He had some support down the back. They got up to 162. Thank you. And then for a time, the Dutch looked like they were going to. Well, they were ahead of the run rate, put it that way, but they kept losing wickets. They'd lost 3 wickets by the end of the power play. They needed someone to go with Max O'Dowd. He batted really well for 71 not out, batting the whole way through the innings, but he just didn't have, he didn't have Rupert Trumpelman. He probably needed that guy to be with him all the way through. They end up losing by 16 runs. It's probably a closer game than that. But the Dutch still get through on the basis that Namibia lost. And I think that's a nice thing, given that the Dutch did beat Namibia after all.
Yeah, and so the Dutch had 2 wins. They lost this one by 16 runs. It would have been pretty stiff if they'd been knocked out after a performance like that. So they get through. I'm going to be controversial here, be a little bit more critical. I thought Max O'Dowd went too slow. I thought he left it too late to try to accelerate.
Yeah, we said that too. It felt like maybe he could have gone a couple of overs earlier, but
not a couple of overs earlier because he couldn't get on strike for the 3 overs before he.
Who was it? Someone was denying him strike again. It's a long time ago.
Well, it was everybody who kept getting out. So there was a sequence in which he faced 12 balls in 6 overs and 5 wickets fell at the other end.
Bloody hell!
And he couldn't get on strike.
I could have used you as our statistician.
But before that, and mostly before that, he faced 13 dot balls and scored 16 singles. So it was the bit sort of after the power play and leading up to the midway point of the innings where every time he was on strike it'd be dot single, and he just didn't try to take the bowling on. And I thought at that stage they were slipping further and further behind. The run rate was getting more and more difficult. And so when he eventually went, they needed 52 off the last 3 overs. And he hit some big bombs, but he got some help from a no ball.
Yeah, that's right. They ended up getting nine runs off 0 balls at one point, didn't they? There was a front foot no ball from Tikshana,
the spinner,
who bowled so well.
It wasn't front foot, it was too high. It was head,
too high. Hit a 6 from the head high no ball. Then there was 2 wides consecutively.
Exactly.
So it helped 9 free runs. Well, not free, but hit the 6. But the 3 sundries and no balls accrued at that point. And by the way, Tikshana, that came from nowhere. He bowled as well as I've ever seen him bowl. Those 2 wickets he got with the front of the hand, Jack Iverson, he's a bloody star. Meanwhile, Hasaranga, fuck me, do any of those wrong-uns miss the stumps? One of the ones, I don't remember which wicket, one of the wickets he got, he was celebrating before the ball even went between bat and pad. He just knew. He just knows. He knows now. He knows what's going on. If he sees a gap there, he will penetrate it.
Well, there was a sequence there with Cooper and Edwards and Van der Kooten and Klaassen all got bowled and there was a run out. So all 4 of them were dismissed with the ball hitting the stumps as they were having a wild mow at one or other of the spinners, be it Hasaranga or Tikshana, and one of them was the slower ball from Benura Fernando, just missing all of them, like just not reading them in the air and losing their stumps. And that was the point where it started going crazy for Max O'Dowd, unable to do anything at the other end. Yeah,
Edwards looked like the man most likely, didn't he? He gets bowled around his legs. By the way, we skipped over something in the UAE game I want to come back to. Mayapan, the lad who took a hat-trick a few nights ago, he takes a wicket with his second ball, also googly. Then the last ball of that first over, I mean, JJ Smith bunts out towards mid-wicket and he hairs after it to do the fielding of his own bowling to stop them getting 2. JJ Smith does stumble, but still, and he has the presence of mind to ping the stumps down. Yes, there was someone over the bails, but it was just complete commitment to the cause. We saw a couple of great catches, one to get rid of Wisa at the end. I say great because he was so close to the boundary line. There was some really high quality cricket in that game, even if it was a bit chaotic towards the end.
Yep, and Kusal Mendes deserves a wrap for his innings. So it was a little like the
5
previous
sixes,
game.
I think.
So Padam Nasanka made 74 in their previous game when no one else did anything. Kusal Mendes 79 from 44 balls today when no one else was doing anything. And what he did really well was just punish bad bowling. He just waited for bad deliveries. Almost every boundary or 6, if you count, is it 6 a boundary? I don't know. I've always been confused about that.
I think it is.
All of his 4s and 6s were leg side because he just waited for bad deliveries. He eventually hit 2 through the offside after he'd reached a 50. But before that point, he waited for a line outside the leg stump or something that was dug into the pitch and sat up, and he just went leg side every time there was a bad delivery. And Netherlands bowled him enough bad deliveries. They bowled poorly enough that he was able to put that innings together.
Jeff, you can probably see if you're watching the video that I'm almost stumbling over. I'm that knackered and crook. So I think we should get to the Hall of Fame. I'm thrilled that Netherlands. I don't even know
if we need a Hall of Fame. Everything today was Hall of Fame. It was so good.
No, you're right. Fuck it. Hall of Fame is treat the associate nations better. Give them more of the pie. Let them grow. I know the ICC, I should clarify this in case someone gets angry, in Dubai. The actual people that work for the organisation do outstanding work supporting associate cricket. They're like us, right? They're like all of us probably watching and listening who really want to see the game grow. It's not the people who work there.
No.
It's the people who sit on the
It's
boards
the
that
people
get
who
sent
tell
there.
them what to do.
Remember that. There's a distinction. But
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. No Hall of Fame. Let's just celebrate the fact that it's been a belting 3 days here at Geelong, from the Namibian upset over Sri Lanka to start with, to the hat trick, to the Junaid 109 metre 6, to the David Visa performance this evening, to Hasaranga and Tikshana and Mayapan bowling so well today, to Zahur Khan uprooting the stumps twice in an over. There was so much that went down. I'm so glad we were at Geelong this week.
And let's just say that our Hall of Fame is Mohammad Wasim. You are King of Geelong.
You are King of
Tonight,
Geelong.
You really are.
I really missed that on commentary, haven't I?
This has been the Final Word World Cup Daily. Day 5, the last day of the qualifying stages. Day 6 comes tomorrow. We'll be with you every day through the tournament. Patreon.com/thefinalword if you want to help us out with what we're doing. And this bit of the show is presented to you by Visit Melbourne.com. Come and pay us a visit in our part of the world.
Thanks, Basil.